Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the channel. My name is Joey. UFC 263 is this Saturday, and the main event is Israel Adesanya versus Marvin Vettori for the middleweight title in a rematch from a few years ago where both guys were very early on in their UFC careers, and now Adesanya is obviously the champion defending his belt against Marvin Vettori. This is going to be my full breakdown and prediction for the main event. I've already done prediction videos for Devison Figueroa versus Brandon Moreno, as well as Leon Edwards versus Nate Diaz. I'll put the links in the description, so make sure you guys go check those videos out. And do me a favor, if you guys enjoy these prediction videos, make sure to like the video. I really appreciate it. So Israel Adesanya is coming off a loss to Jan Blachowicz at light heavyweight. Adesanya decided he wanted to go up to light heavyweight and challenge Jan Blachowicz for his belt and see if he could become double champion. And obviously, we all know what happened in March. He lost the fight to Jan Blachowicz by decision. And I know a lot of people are going to point to that Jan Blachowicz fight and say, that is the path to victory for Marvin Vettori. And while I kind of agree with that, it's hard to replicate Jan Blachowicz' path to victory, when you don't have the same skill set as Jan Blachowicz. Marvin Vettori by no means is the same level of striker as Jan Blachowicz, but not even close. And then on top of that, Jan Blachowicz has that one-punch knockout power. And that left Adesanya, a little bit frozen. I'm not saying, he was scared or anything like that. But what I'm saying is he was a little more tentative. We even seen it in the Yoel Romero fight. Yoel Romero is super explosive, has knockout power. And Adesanya, picked him apart from the outside, was a little more careful. Because Adesanya does have a high fight IQ. And in the Jan Blachowicz fight, a lot of people seem to forget. They say, oh, well, Jan went in there and took him down and beat him up on the ground. There were some rounds that were majority contested on the feet, and Jan Blachowicz was able to win those rounds. Adesanya was super tentative in that fight because he was worried about the power of Jan Blachowicz. Jan Blachowicz has filthy power. Marvin Vettori does not have that same level of power. And, you look back, at their original fight back in 2018, I believe it was, and Adesanya got the split decision win. And obviously both guys have changed and improved so much since that fight. But also it was not a split decision. Adesanya clearly won the first two rounds, in my opinion. Third round could have went to Vettori, but he had two takedowns, but he didn't really do much with them. First round was kind of close, and then Adesanya clearly won the second. But I don't feel like there's that many takeaways you can take from that fight because since then, both guys have improved vastly. So it's really hard to look back at a fight from 3 years ago and say, oh, well, look, here's what happened there, and here's what's going to happen in this fight. But I really believe the key to Marvin Vettori's victory is to come out, make it a very ugly fight. He's going to have to push Adesanya against the cage, use clinch work, beat him up against the fence, try to wear out on Adesanya's arms, and take him down, here and there, ground and pound him, and it's just going to be a Vettori decision win. I just don't see him finishing Adesanya in any way, shape, or form. It's just going to be a very tough matchup for Vettori, and I know Vettori is super confident and determined, so it's almost like throwing me off a little bit. I'm like, does this, because he definitely believes in himself. He believes he's going to win this fight, but then again, he believes he won that first fight, and he didn't. It shouldn't even been a split decision. The judges were terrible in that aspect, but I just think overall, the way the fight's going to play out, I'm going to go with, and I'm not really good for this one as far as nailing down a specific prediction. I could see it going a couple different ways, but I'm going to go with Israel Adesanya by second round TKO. And I just believe, in the most simplistic version of my prediction, I believe Adesanya's takedown defense is going to be good enough, and I believe Adesanya's striking is far superior to Marvin Vettori. I mean, look what Adesanya has done in his run in the UFC. I mean, has anybody ever outclassed Robert Whittaker the way he did at middleweight? I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, well, Wonderboy did, but that was at welterweight. That was very early on in Robert Whittaker's career. But Adesanya went in there against Whittaker, prime Whittaker, and just outclassed him. And I just think if Vettori spends significant amount of time on the feet with Adesanya, I just don't know how it's going to go his way. He's not going to win a striking battle. He was able to outstrike Jack Hermanson in his last fight against Kevin Holland, and I think that's a really telling fight, that last fight against Kevin Holland for Marvin Vettori. And I know that was a short notice fight for both Marvin Vettori and Kevin Holland. Technically, Marvin Vettori was training for the fight, but still he had a last minute opponent replacement. He was originally supposed to fight Darren Till, I believe. But if you look at that fight and you look at Kevin Holland's past, Kevin Holland has no takedown defense at all. Derek Brunson was able to take him down at will, 5 rounds, beat the shit out of him for 5 rounds and win a decision, I think it was. Um, and I just, and again, you have to kind of account that it was a last minute opponent replacement. But Marvin Vettori wasn't really as dominant as Derek Brunson was. And he was able to get Kevin Holland down every round, I think, and was able to hold him down. But that's not really saying much to me. I think Israel Adesanya has far superior takedown defense. And I believe Vettori may be able to get him down, a couple times. But I think it'll really be like that first fight. And I know that was so long ago, but I don't think Vettori's going to be able to get off any type of significant damage. Uh, and also, it just seems like, we've seen Adesanya's takedown defense. Like, I would even rate Derek Brunson as a better wrestler than Marvin Vettori, has better takedowns. And he wasn't able to get Adesanya down. I know that fight didn't last very long, and Derek Brunson is the middleweight, like, gatekeeper in a way. But, and Adesanya's only gotten better since then. And it's just not the same. Jan Blachowicz is a massive 205er. And, the fact that he was able to get Adesanya down, I think, was also a key factor was the open space takedowns. He wasn't pushing Adesanya against the cage and taking him down. And I believe that's Vettori's avenue for the takedowns. And some guys, who are great strikers and, obviously everyone's strategy is to take them down, they love to use their back against the cage to be able to stuff takedowns. It keeps them up. So I think if Vettori wants to win this fight and he wants to take Adesanya down and grapple him, I think it's going to have to be an open space. He's going to try to have to, shoot through him, time it perfectly. And I think he's not going to be able to just go out there and spam takedown after takedown. He's going to have to mix it up in the striking and catch Adesanya off guard and take him down. I just don't see how that's going to be a winning formula for him. He might get one or two, maybe in that first round. Vettori's super durable. He's super aggressive, and he has decent stamina. And I think he will come out, and I think he really will try to push Adesanya hard in that first round. And maybe Adesanya will be a little bit more tentative, try to avoid the takedown, get more of a feeling out process. But I just really believe come that second round, Adesanya is going to, be picking his shots, and he's going to be able to catch Vettori on the chin. We've seen Kevin Holland, and Kevin Holland is a great striker, but I don't believe he's by any means on the same level as Israel Adesanya. I mean, Adesanya kickboxed forever, and Kevin Holland, I just don't believe he's on the same level. And I seen him land on Marvin Vettori on many occasions in their fight, snapping his head back. And with Adesanya's power, his accuracy, super accurate, I just believe he will find the finish in the second round. I'm not super confident in that second round TKO. I could also see it going a little bit longer, maybe a third or fourth round TKO. But I definitely see Adesanya stopping Vettori. If Vettori does win, I think it's going to be by decision. But I just don't see very many advantages for Vettori in this fight. Even if he is able to take him down, Adesanya is not terrible off his back. In the first fight, again, 3 years ago, he's since improved on that. He was able to neutralize all the ground and pound. And Vettori, I know, he's gotten better as well. But what is he? He's not going to become Khabib overnight with his ground and pound strikes. And I just don't see him, and we haven't seen Adesanya's jiu-jitsu game too much, but I just don't know if Vettori's going to be able to go out there and, submit Adesanya if he gets him down one time. It's not like Marvin Vettori is some jiu-jitsu ace, like Gilbert Burns or something like that. And also, I like to do this in some of my prediction videos, look back at the guys' resumes. And, for Marvin Vettori, realistically, I'm not saying he doesn't deserve the title shot, but he wasn't the most deserving guy to get this title shot. So he was kind of gifted this title shot. Robert Whittaker should have been fighting for the title next. Robert Whittaker lost his belt to Adesanya back in 2019. Since then, he's on a 3-fight win streak. And really, I believe Whittaker should have been next in line. Dana White and the UFC wanted to make that fight. but timing didn't work out. So they gave Marvin Vettori the title shot. And not that he doesn't deserve it, but let me go over his resume a little bit. He's on a 5-fight winning streak since he lost to Adesanya in 2018, April of 2018. He's since beat Cesar Ferreira, Andrew Sanchez, Carl Robertson, Jack Hermanson, and Kevin Holland. That is not a very good resume at all. That's terrible. I mean, the best names on the resume it's probably Jack Hermanson's probably the best name, and then Kevin Holland. And let me just say this right now. I just don't think Kevin Holland is the elite of the elite at middleweight. I know he went on a great streak in 2019, but I mean, some of the level of fighters he was fighting weren't that great either. I mean, Jacare was a great win. That was kind of a weird win, but also obviously Jacare is no longer in the UFC. And I know you can pick apart anybody's resume. And again, I don't put the most weight in picking apart resumes, but it's just always worth mentioning in my prediction videos. When you go back and look at Adesanya's resume, not only was he undefeated in the UFC up until he lost his light heavyweight title shot to Jan Blachowicz, he beat Marvin Vettori. He beat Brad Tavares. Not that Brad Tavares is some world beater, but Brad Tavares is a quality guy. He beat Derek Brunson. Derek Brunson is still a top 10 guy right now. He beat Anderson Silva. Okay, I don't really care about that too much. He beat Kelvin Gastelum. He beat Robert Whittaker. He beat Yo Romero. He beat Paulo Costa. And in that fight against Paulo Costa, which was his last fight at middleweight, minus the grappling, Paulo Costa, on the feet, pretty much was following the same game plan that I believe Vettori will follow, which is pressure and volume. And we've seen Adesanya in that fight. He was able to change directions, use his footwork. He has great footwork, and just avoid the shots. Paulo Costa was just destroying everyone up until that point. And, again, I think Vettori's game plan as far as on the feet is going to be very similar to that of Paulo Costa. And it didn't work out for Paulo Costa at all. And I just don't think it's going to work out for Vettori. I think Adesanya also has the stamina advantage. I know people are saying, oh, well, Vettori went 5 rounds against Kevin Holland, and he went 5 rounds against Jack Hermanson. That Jack Hermanson fight was phenomenal. That was one of the best fights of last year. But, in those fights, especially in the Kevin Holland fight, a lot of that was spent laying on top of Kevin Holland. There's a big difference between taking a guy down and being able to lay on him ground and pound and kind of rest for a minute here, a minute there because you're on top of a guy versus chasing a guy down. And, he's using his footwork. He's avoiding you. He's countering you. He's picking you apart from the outside. He's chopping your legs. There's a big difference between the 5-round stamina in a fight like that versus a fight where you take a guy down and you hold him down for 5 rounds. There's a big difference. And I just think, if you look at Adesanya's previous fights, especially when you go to the Gastelum fight, his stamina was phenomenal in that fight. And we know what kind of stamina Kelvin Gastelum has. And Adesanya went all 5 rounds, and he gutted it out in that 5th round, and that 5th round is what won him the fight. And I just don't believe, even if this fight does go long, I think, let's say, because I said earlier in the video, I think Vettori could potentially get a takedown here or there in the first round and maybe not do anything with it. Even if the fight does go long, I think those takedowns are going to come harder for Vettori, And again, if he's not able to do much with them in the early rounds, which, some fights that happens, where guys get guys down, especially early on when both guys are fresh and they're not really able to capitalize on it. I mean, even look back, Khabib Conor, the first round. Khabib was took him down in that very first round and wasn't able to do much with it other than establish the position and hold him there. And unless he's able to get some significant damage off on Adesanya when he does get him down, then I don't see where he goes. Adesanya's eventually going to find his way back to the feet, whether it's the end of the round or I think he can scramble back to his feet. He's shown in the past he can, even against Vettori himself. But I just don't believe he's going to be able to wear Adesanya out, and that's going to be the game plan. It's just push him against the cage, clinch work, and just batter him against the fence and mix in the takedowns, make him fight to defend those takedowns, give really good takedown attacks and kind of make Adesanya exhaust his arms a little bit, wear him down a bit. I just don't think that's going to happen. I think the fight is going to consist of Vettori pressing, getting picked apart, getting frustrated, looking for takedowns, but not even be able to. I really think he's going to be, rushing in, really trying for those takedowns hard, but it's just not going to come easy because I don't think he's going to be able to stand on the feet with him very well, and he has to be able to use his strikes to mix those in. And this fight is kind of strange because it's almost like one of those trap fights where I think everyone pretty much favors Adesanya, but there's something about this fight that gives me a weird feeling. Like Marvin Vettori is so confident, and he's a guy that, if there's a guy with a very good skill set to beat Adesanya, he has that wrestling, grappling heavy style, pressure heavy style in the middleweight division. It's probably Vettori, or maybe Jack Hermanson, but I really don't think that would happen either. Obviously, Marvin Vettori is better than Jack Hermanson. Um, but I just don't think he's going to be able to get it done. A guy like Jan Blachowicz is such another level, and the size difference. Even if you look at that Jan fight and you say, okay, Vettori can do that, their size difference is massive. 205 to 185, that's a huge weight difference. So Jan Blachowicz had that. So Marvin Vettori is not going to have that. But basically, in summary, I think Vettori needs to try to take him down and hold him down, clinch work. But I think what's going to happen is Adesanya is going to pick him apart from the outside. I think, in the first round, it might be a little of a, feeling out process. I think eventually Vettori's going to get frustrated because he's not going to be able to find Adesanya. He changes, he switches stances. His footwork is amazing. He showed that in the Paulo Costa fight. Paulo Costa was not able to track him down at all. Got super frustrated. And I think this fight is going to look, eerily similar to the Costa fight, but with some more takedown attempts. I think Vettori's eventually going to get frustrated. He's going to rush in a little bit more sloppy than, he probably should. And I think eventually Adesanya is going to find that chin and put him to sleep. We've seen what happened to Robert Whittaker when he was rushing in, looking for big shots. That was a little bit different game plan. He was looking for more big shots on the feet. We've seen what happened to him. He was brutally KO'd by Adesanya. Adesanya has great head movement. And if a guy like Robert Whittaker, who I view as far superior to Marvin Vettori, can't get it done, then I just don't know how Marvin Vettori gets it done. Maybe he does. Again, I have that weird feeling, and especially this is kind of a funny take, but if anybody gets screwed out of anything, it's Robert Whittaker, because if Marvin Vettori wins this fight, I'll tell you right now, they are doing a trilogy, and Robert Whittaker is supposed to be getting the next title shot. Dana White said Robert Whittaker will get the title shot later in the year. Obviously they offered it to him at this point in time, but it was on such short notice. He just fought Kelvin Gastelum. He needed time to recover. He would have been a fool to take a title shot on this quick of a turnaround. So if Vettori wins, Robert Whittaker is getting screwed, because guaranteed that Adesanya would get a rematch. And speaking of quick turnarounds, Vettori's on a very quick turnaround as well. I mean, he fought in April, mid-April, and now he's going to be fighting in early June. So, that's a pretty quick turnaround. He didn't take any time off or anything. He went right back into training camp. So that could be another factor in this fight. Also, I forgot to mention, Adesanya has a 6-inch reach advantage, which I think he will use. I mean, Adesanya is always using his reach. When he has that reach advantage, he's using that jab. He just has great combinations, and his striking is just so fluid. But again, I'm going Adesanya, second round TKO. Let me know in the comments what you guys think is going to happen in this fight. I'm so curious. Is anyone picking Marvin Vettori? I'm curious. If you are, make sure you leave it in the comments, because I'm not going to believe you after the fights. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like the video, and I'll see you in the next video.